Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me here on Wave Now. I'm Myra Ansari. Hope your Monday's going good so far. We're going live to Frankfort, where Governor Beshear is giving us a Team Kentucky update. Let's listen in.
So, Walker? Yeah. Great. Walker, how long have you been covering the Capitol?
Pretty much as long as I've worked with it.
Yeah. Carolina, you might be right behind Tom Latek.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. We're just waiting on one more set of talkers before we start. Great. Thank you, sir. Great. Good morning, everyone. Today, we're here to give an update on the severe flooding that hit virtually all of Kentucky beginning about 9 days ago. We remain in stabilization phase out of the emergency search and rescue phase, but we still had some tough updates over the weekend. Sadly, today, our death toll has now climbed to 22. With the newest fatality being an adult male in Marshall County who we lost through hypothermia. This isn't just a number. These are 22 Kentuckians that are loved by their families, that are being mourned, that are missed, and are going to need our help, our support, and our prayers today, tomorrow, next week, next month, and in the years to come. This has been a painful, difficult disaster. There aren't many natural disasters where we lose 22 people. After the widespread flooding in 2022 and the tornadoes in 2021, this is one of the most deadly disasters, certainly since I've been governor. As a reminder, to help these victims and their families, we established the Team Kentucky Storm Relief Fund to assist those impacted by the floods. First thing we're going to do is pay for every funeral so that no family has to worry about that when they've lost their family member through such a tragic occurrence. Those who can, please donate at teamkystormrelieffund.ky.gov. We currently have $300,689 in donations from 3,100 donors. Remember, every single penny goes to those that have been harmed or those that have been lost through this flooding and the severe weather around it. Not 1 cent will be used for administrative fees, with the exception of credit card processing that can occur if that's the way you give online. It's fully transparent, even just an open records request. Everyone in the Commonwealth can see exactly how each dollar is being spent, so please be generous. Another update is that we are still waiting to hear from the federal government if we will be approved for an expedited major disaster declaration. That's what's required to get the individual and the public assistance. Last week, I told you that we applied to Secretary Noem and President Trump for this funding. If it was provided, it would open up so many ways to help our people. It was provided after the tornadoes, after the floods, and after a couple of other natural disasters, who I think the overall impact is less than this one. I think this one falls about third in terms of the overall impact since I've been governor and in things we've seen should be a yes, and I would hope potentially an easy yes from the federal government to say we want to help the people of Kentucky, especially of Eastern Kentucky, to get through this. If it was signed, it would create immediate need money and cleaning and sanitizing money. That's to help people who last week lost so much get through the next couple weeks. It's to help them clean out their homes if their homes weren't destroyed but significantly damaged. Those cleaning supplies are really important, and they help people do it safely because of mold and the spores. That we want everyone to be able to get their home repaired in a safe way. It would also open individual assistance with a max grant award of $43,600. We would hope that as many people would qualify for as much of that as possible. This federal assistance is essential to those that have been harmed by this flood, and we know those numbers are in the hundreds. Last week, I also sent a letter thanking the Kentucky federal delegation, every single one of them. Both of our senators, all of our congressmen came together in a bipartisan way to ask the White House to approve this declaration and to get help to our people. Listen, those are a lot of leaders that may disagree on a lot of issues, but they know that this is a disaster where the help is desperately needed and under the law appropriate and deserved. This is one of the reasons why on Friday I attended the National Governors Association meeting at the White House, where I spoke to the President's Deputy Chief of Staff and the new HUD Secretary on this important request and how it could help our communities. We still do have a FEMA team with us at the Emergency Response Center, and they're supporting our response, but actually getting FEMA members out into our communities to provide direct assistance requires that we get a signature on this declaration. Tomorrow, we're expecting a visit from the acting FEMA administrator, Cameron Hamilton. He'll be traveling with our emergency management team to view many of the areas I saw last week. All right, we'll move to an update on resource requests. So in total, we've received 460 requests at the Emergency Operations Center, with 279 completed. Most requests in the last 24 hours include damage assessment teams, dehumidifiers, mold cleaning solution, personal hygiene kits, spray bottles, and water. Most of the requests are coming in from Breathitt, Floyd, Knott, Martin, Perry, and Pike counties. Those are roughly 53% of all requests. But again, that shows you, even with half the requests coming from those counties, how widespread that this natural disaster was, not hitting just one region, hitting all of Kentucky, even though it hit some parts harder than others. New kinds of requests in the last 24 hours: cleanup tools, garbage bags, personal hygiene kits, propane adapter hoses, and spray bottles. To date, we've delivered 65 truckloads of water, 5 ready-to-eat meal truckloads, 1 blanket truckload. Now, as we move into this stabilization phase, debris removal is going to be a big task. And how we go about it will also be dependent on whether we get this declaration, which would provide at least security to us that the federal government would be helping to pay for it. So another new update is that our emergency management team is assessing the volume and the location of major debris and developing a coordinated plan for removal with the impacted counties. We currently stand, I think, at over 100 declarations from our counties and our cities. 72 counties declared an emergency. 28 cities declared an emergency. That's the 100, and then of course the state. And we got the initial emergency declaration from the White House, and that did come very quickly, and we were grateful for that declaration. State highway closures are down to 89. 79 are due to flooding, primarily in western and the southern Kentucky regions, 10 due to mud and rock slides. Still a few flooded roads in Pike and Floyd counties. There's a significant highway damage across the state. That's why that need for public assistance is so important. And more than 20 road breaks and embankment failures in the Pikeville Highway District alone. You look at Pike, Knott, Johnson, and Letcher counties, there are a lot of one-lane roads due to damage. State highway technicians and engineering teams continue to assess damage in all Kentucky counties, committed to restoring roads to full service. But please remember, protect yourself. Don't drive around barricades. Don't drive through dangerous situations. Update on our National Guard. They're supporting debris removal in Leslie, Pike, Floyd, Knott, Martin, Breathitt, Letcher, Harlan, and Perry counties. They're also transporting critical supplies from our distribution centers in Martin and in Pike counties. Let me remind you, these missions are critical to ensuring Kentuckians get the right supplies to the right people, which saves lives. Kentucky State Police troopers continue to assist impacted homeowners in eastern Kentucky by delivering supplies, portable heaters, generators, water, and food. They're also providing extra night patrols in the areas impacted by flooding for any security concerns, and there's always worry over looting. We want to make sure that people who have been harmed don't go through even more harm. Post 9 in Pikeville has provided a telecommunicator to the local emergency operations center to assist first responders. We're grateful for that assistance on the ground. We also have an update from Fish and Wildlife as game wardens have continued to work to deliver the much needed food, water, and supplies to Kentuckians impacted by the floods. Wardens have utilized boats and off-road vehicles to deliver many supplies in the Feds Creek and other areas of Pike County. In Leslie County, they're transporting utility company workers to an area inaccessible to vehicles so that they can reconnect services such as power, telephone, and the internet. In the Confluence area, wardens took a generator by boat to a substation for the telephone company to get the station back in operation. They've also been taking emergency management personnel out by boat to do damage assessments in the Confluence and the Dry Hill areas. So as you can see, a whole lot of different state and local agencies working together, facing the challenges together. This is how Kentucky bands together. And I couldn't be prouder of the local and the state response, doing everything that we can and hoping that we'll see the federal government come through and add to this team to help people, especially during the stabilization phase. Another way that we're working to help Kentuckians is that Brittany and I are asking Kentuckians to donate blood to help make sure all our hospitals have what they need in the days and the weeks ahead. We just donated at the state capitol this morning. So you could donate and then potentially do a press conference and or other things that you need to do. Just consider donating blood. You never know whose life it is. I think it's a selfless act of love that is very much living out that golden rule that we love our neighbor as ourselves. In the parable of the Good Samaritan says everyone is our neighbor. It's also a good way to pay it forward because you never know when someone you care about might be in that next accident or need blood for some reason. You can find where to give blood at governor.ky.gov/giveblood. Teams are still continuing to do secondary searches in our flood operations teams in targeted areas. They remain in Floyd County today. Kentucky's Urban Search and Rescue Team is running a logistics staging area. This is where they're bringing in trailers of supplies and distributing them to counties in need. All urban search and rescue teams in Kentucky have been demobilized and have returned home. They saved a ton of lives, and we're really grateful to them. Power outages, we're now down to 352. So really power for virtually all the state has been restored. You'll see that number tick up and down as the last groups are brought online. Drinking water, 0 systems not operational, 16 under limited operations, 42,327 service locations under a boiled water advisory, and only 2,327 connections are without water. Wastewater, 15 systems are under limited operations. 2 plants are bypassing, 8 systems discharging from a collection area. Our Kentucky state parks are sheltering 253 people at 6 state parks, occupying 95 rooms. Our parks have rooms open and available. Our park staff is doing a great job once again helping people in need. 6 emergency shelters are open as of today in Barron County. I think there's 2 listed in Johnson County, but I think that's just 1 shelter. 2 in Perry County and 1 in Pike County. Yeah, so 5 that are open, because I think we've confirmed that the Johnson County was just 1. As a reminder, we did have some good news last week, and that is that we're moving forward with these high ground communities. We awarded the first $6 million to build, I think, the first large group of homes on Skyview in Hazard. And folks, if you have been impacted by this flood, you will qualify, just like those in 2022 or 2021, to potentially be qualified for one of these homes on higher ground. If you will, go to housingcan'twait.org, fill out the forms, and FAHI will contact you and talk about your potential eligibility. We want to get everybody to a safer place where you don't have to worry about getting flooded again and again and going through this loss again and again. As an update on the Red Cross, they are in, especially Eastern Kentucky, on the ground helping those that have been impacted. Regarding their individual financial assistance, which the Red Cross does as well, they'll provide information within the next 24 hours regarding how those impacted can access funding. Additionally, individual disaster care dollars supporting health, mental health, and spiritual needs of those affected are being distributed, as well as providing special funding for the families who've lost loved ones. The Red Cross provides financial assistance to help residents transition from shelters to more sustainable living situations. There are currently 4 Red Cross operation shelters with more than 1,000 overnight stays provided thus far. Disaster assessments have been completed on about 65% of affected homes. The Red Cross has to do their own disaster assessments under their rules. 749 homes have been assessed as having damages, with 25 being classified as major or destroyed. And this, again, is just the Red Cross's numbers. They are also assisting those who've not experienced damage but are unable to get to their homes. 5,600 items, including cleanup kits, space heaters, and blankets, have been provided to 2,500 households. Think about that number, and shows you some of the impact just in that region. Recovery in Kentucky will take time. The Red Cross has promised to be there every step of the way to support their operations. You can go to redcross.org, call 1-800-RED-CROSS, or text the word Red Cross to 90999. That makes a $10 donation. As I wrap up and turn it over to Director Gibson, this has been a tough 9 or 10 days, I know, for a lot of people out there. And we are hoping that the federal government comes through for us. But I promise you, at the state level and at the local level, we will work as hard as we can to help everybody get back up on their feet. We care about you. And for many people, you've been through too much, and you've been through it over and over and over. So you have my promise. I'll do everything I can to help now, tomorrow, next week, and next year, knowing that you deserve better than getting hit by yet another flood. And we'll do everything we can to rebuild just as quickly as we can. Director Gibson.
Thank you very much, Governor, for asking me to come over and provide just a little update on some things that are going on over at the Emergency Management Office and across the state. The Governor's done an excellent job in summarizing the status of the state and how things are going throughout this entire process. So I just want to kind of touch base on a few things. We've had so many of our local officials that are just, calling continuously and petitioning on behalf of their citizens that they work for in their communities, and we're trying to work with every one of them to meet their needs. And I just wanted to say that Kentucky has come together to kind of meet the need of this disaster. This is a widespread event. I took Friday to take just a few minutes to run over to the Pike County area just to see some of our hardest impacted areas. And it's truly what we were hearing. And it's kind of good to get that confirmation, because we're doing the work in here. We want to know, what are we missing? What are we seeing? How can we help more? And as we continue to see that event is unfolding and these damage assessments are coming in, our numbers are just continuing to rise as we see the number of households, businesses, and communities and all the infrastructure that goes along with that are more impacted than we may have even first thought. And we knew this was a big disaster from the very beginning. But as you can go over there, put your feet on the ground and talk to those local officials and meet those people in those communities, it matches up very much with the story we were telling and the story that you as the media were telling about this event as you all were over there and seeing that. Met with many of those officials that day and just heard them plead for assistance with this debris that's starting to mound up in the streets that needs to be addressed quickly. And looking at the roads that are out of repair, they need to get them safe for travel. There's work that needs to begin on those things. And so if there is anything to report, it is the ground truth of what actually we were talking about here, what the Weather Service was telling us that we were seeing, and the stories that kind of went through the media about what was going on. This is a widespread event. It affects many, many counties. As the governor said, 72 counties declared a state of emergency. And we continue to see that these deaths are scattered across the state. So this widespread flooding event affected eastern Kentucky in one way, and also the western Kentucky and southern counties as well. The flooding that went on throughout those counties has caused significant damage, and it's going to take a significant time to repair. And we know that work is just now beginning. As we end our response and that phase, we move into this recovery phase, which is this rebuilding, the cleaning up, the making people whole or be able to go home again, and giving those opportunities for them. And the partners like the Red Cross that the governor mentioned, they're there. I was over there. I saw them in the communities, walking down the streets, handing out necessary supplies, running the shelter that's going on in Pike County. They were there for that event as well. So we know that there are many, many local volunteers that have come to the aid of their communities over there. And then we have people coming in from other areas that are coming to assist. So, the part of this report that I've been able to give every day that the governor's asked me to be a part of it is in support of what he's saying, just those fine details about things that we're doing at emergency management to kind of add on to what he says is how this devastation has impacted. And he reported on the amount of water and food that we've delivered. And we're seeing those are needed supplies. Our citizens over there are out of drinking water, and without that relief, they would not have that clean option to have, bottled water to meet their needs right now. So we're trying to find those gaps, to fill those gaps in emergency management and to help your communities recover. What I would say is your local officials throughout the rescue squads and the fire departments in the initial response, but now your road crews, your judge executives, your mayors, are all in contact along with our legislative body. They're all concerned about their communities, and they're doing everything in their power to reach out to us to make sure that they're getting the help they need, but then they're doing their own things about finding ways to help individually. So as we go through this, we're already wanting to talk a little bit about our debris task force that we're trying to get underway to understand just how much debris there is across those communities. And that becomes a very quick issue because of spoiled food and meat, the things that are out on the side of the road, along with all the wet building materials and things that have been pulled out to the curb. So we've got to get on the debris management very quickly. And as we kind of begin this, we're doing our assessments now. The Corps of Engineers is already out doing that, along with some staff from KYM that we've got out there doing this debris assessment. We're hearing from those communities, and we're knowing that is coming to the top of the page. Okay, now we're past this survival mode. Let's start this rebuilding and recovery mode. So debris and roads and housing for our citizens are really the top of the page. We have a lot of people that are, in shelter, and they're going to need a solution for that congregate shelter to get some normalcy back in their life. So emergency management stands ready to help. We're here. We're operational just like we always were. The Under Needs Assessment portal is open, and we're still taking those calls. So if you need anything from KYEM, please direct your calls to that Other Needs Assessment line, and we'll do our very best to assist you in where you are. Thank you very much, Governor. Thank you.
All right, I think we have 6 journalists with us today. We'll start with Walker from WTVQ.
Yeah, you mentioned that expedited funding, and you talked about how you had it in the past compared to previous years. Have you seen it slowing at this rate?
Of the 2 biggest disasters that we had, the 2021 tornadoes and the 2022 flooding, we did see that declaration signed sooner than we have here. But we also, it required a couple days for us to submit the paperwork because again, it's so wide. In those other two, you could fly over one region and you could see that we were going to qualify for it. So I don't want to do a direct comparison because I don't think it's apples to apples, but we're at the point now where we really need a signature on that declaration because people are hurting. It's been 9-10 days or 8 or 9 days, and they really need the help with that cleaning supplies, immediate needs, and then knowing that there's going to be some extra help behind. So the clock's really ticking right now. Carolina.
Governor, you spoke about how critical this federal funding is. Without it, how does that impact Kentucky's recovery?
Well, without the additional federal funding, individual and public assistance, a whole lot of families are going to be hit really hard without those dollars that were there in the past to help them get up and move forward. For people who've had a total loss, even the $42,000 isn't going to make them whole, but at least it's going to help them a little bit. For those that have had their homes ruined, at least that's some money to help get back up on their feet. Without it, you're going to see people not just harmed, but devastated. And then when you look at the public assistance, some of these disasters are hundreds of millions of dollars of damage to our roads and our water systems. And the state would ultimately, and the counties would be on the hook for the majority of that, as opposed to the federal government coming in and saying, we're going to help you out like we have in the past. So it would be pretty harmful or it would be very harmful to the families that have been impacted, and it would be harmful to the state as well. Mike.
Yes. Wave News, we're asking if you have a reaction to the University of Louisville's announcement of a hiring freeze after NIH funding was frozen.
I understand why the University of Louisville has taken the step that they have because they just need certainty and stability moving forward about how NIH dollars will flow. Research funded through the NIH is absolutely critical. You think about pediatric cancer and the work that's being done at the University of Louisville and elsewhere to find better treatments and hopefully a cure. You think about all those diseases out there right now where too many families are told that there's not another option. That and so much else is what NIH money goes into. It's about protecting our families, trying to create a better life, and so that next child and that next child's parents don't hear the devastating news. NIH funding is flowing at the moment, but new grants and what's going to happen in the future is certainly in question. We hope that will be resolved soon and that the federal administration will realize just how critically important this is. And I would hope that the right people are looking at the funding. Because if there's an individual that's looking at what should be funded and what's not, that we wouldn't trust to treat a child for cancer, they should be making the decisions on what research should be done to treat that child with cancer. Tom Latek, Kentucky Today.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning to you. Last week you had mentioned that you were talking about bringing some of those travel trailers out to help people who've been forced from their homes. Do you have any update on that?
Yeah, we're working on that. We have the infrastructure at Jenny Wiley to be able to haul travel trailers to. We have some in the state that I believe we're going to use for that. Pike County also has a number of travel trailers that they requested after we finished most of our 2022 mission. So all of us working together. Of course, if individuals that have been impacted have the ability, have the infrastructure on private property to hook those up, that's a possibility too. So working with those at Jenny Wiley, working with those that are right now in congregate sheltering. I know we will have a program. Still don't know how large it'll be because a lot of people prefer to stay with friends and family, and that's what we do in Kentucky. We help people out when they need it. Josh James. Okay, Kelsey Soto, WKYT.
Governor, with all the talks of the possible FEMA cuts and federal funding going away, are we in Kentucky even more reliant upon those dollars just based on a number of disasters? And is the state even equipped to handle it on our own if they went away?
And so since I've become governor, we've had either 12 or 13 federally declared disasters. That is over 5 years and change. We have just been hit hard with billions of dollars worth of damage. Without federal assistance, we couldn't do it. Without federal assistance, we couldn't have made it through all of those natural disasters, and our people certainly couldn't have made it through all those natural disasters. You look at the amount of help that came from the federal government after the tornadoes and the 2022 floods, and while there were challenges with it, and while I don't think enough people were told yes, and while I don't think enough money went to the people who were told yes, and I will continue to criticize FEMA for that piece, we still had tens of millions of dollars going directly to families, even more than that coming over to the state. I mean, basically, you would take all that away from our Kentucky families who desperately need it after something like this, and then tell a state, you're on your own. The United States of America is supposed to be about more than each of our states having to get through it alone. It's about being a strong country, one of values, and one of the most important values is being there for your neighbor when they're hurting. And all we're asking is that the federal government step in and help out, just like they've done in the past. And if we can get that assistance, we'll be grateful. But so will each of our Kentucky citizens that need this help. And it's no less than I would want for any other state that's been impacted by something like this. We're just one of the first instances under a new administration that I hope is just looking through all the guidelines and everything else. And at the end of the day, we'll come through. And if they do, they'll get a big thank you from me. We're going to keep fighting for our people. I think I'm saying it over and over, but I was elected to be the best governor of Kentucky I can be. My job is to fight for the most help for our people every single day. All right. Thank you all very much.
We did not